Good evening, we're on Saturday the 3rd of October. I'm continuing to read the words of Dr. Vernon Coleman, MB, ChB, DSc, FRSA, from the book Coleman Cuts the Mustard. Is tap water safe to drink? That's the big question. Is tap water safe to drink? FRSA back in 1982. In a column I was writing in a medical journal, the words of Dr. Vernon Coleman, he said, I raised the question of whether or not public drinking water supplies could be polluted with female hormone residues which might affect the development of male babies. I tried to get television and radio journalists to take up the problem, and I tried to interest politicians in the topic too. But although many were horrified by the idea, all quickly decided that it was far too controversial a subject. It will frighten people far too much, was the common view. However, it was not just the possibility of female hormones residues from the contraceptive pill which might be causing problems which worried me. At the time when I first wrote about this subject, I was so alarmed by what I discovered that I spent over a year doing research before I wrote the article, and my fear was built on several pieces of information. Fact 1. More and more people are taking increasingly powerful medicinal drugs such as antibiotics, painkillers, tranquilizers, sleeping tablets, hormones, particularly those in the contraceptive pill, and steroids. Huge numbers of people take drugs every day. Not many people go through a whole year without taking at least one course of tablets. Half of the population will take a prescribed medicine today and tomorrow and the day after that. And on top of the prescribed drugs, there are all the non-prescription drugs that are taken. Pills bought over the chemist's counter and taken day in and day out. Fact 2. Many drugs are excreted in the urine when the body has finished with them. For example, up to 75% of a dose of a tranquilizer may be excreted in the urine. With other drugs, the figure may be as high as 90%. Some drugs, which are degraded, can chemically react with the environment and become active again. Fact 3. After going through standard purification procedures, wastewater is often discharged into fresh water rivers. Fact 4. Drinking water supplies are often taken from fresh water rivers. the same rivers into which the wastewater has been discharged. Fact 5. Water for purification programs were designed many years ago, before doctors started prescribing vast quantities of drugs for millions of patients, and before the problem of removing drug residues had been thought of. I felt that even someone with a modest IQ should be able to see where all this was leading. It seemed clear to me that anyone who turned on a tap and made a cup of tea could be getting a cocktail containing leftover chemicals from other people's tranquilizers, sleeping pills, antibiotics, contraceptive pills, heart drugs, anti-arthritis pills, and so on. Back in 1982, I wrote that with an increasing number of people taking drugs, there must be a risk that the drinking water supplies will eventually become contaminated so heavily that people using ordinary drinking water will effectively be taking drugs. Or have we already reached that point? And are people who drink water in certain areas of the country already passively involved in daily drug taking? Back in 1982, no one seemed to know the answer to that frightening question. And today, I still do not know the answer. Does anyone? Are you an involuntary drug taker? Could you be addicted to any of the drug residues which might be in your drinking water? Could you be taking regular supplies of bits and pieces of other people's antibiotics? Are you taking contraceptive hormone leftovers? Could these drug residues be affecting your fertility? Could drug residues affect the health of any unborn children? No one in the government seems concerned by these questions. I think they should be. It may soon be too late, but evidence is already appearing to suggest that my original fears were accurate. A publication produced by the Environmental Agency in the UK reported that 57% of the roach in one river had changed sex. Chemicals in treated sewage and factory waste were blamed for upsetting natural fish hormones. The researchers found that the fish were more likely to be affected when they spent time close to a sewage outlet. They also found that fish had lived upstream, away from the sewage outlet, were much less likely to be affected. Apparently, the chemicals in sewage which are most likely to affect fish are female hormones such as estrogens. Strangely, some scientists still seem puzzled about the source of the female hormones. Since the average scientist seems to have the IQ of a dead tree, one should not, I suppose, be too surprised by this. While they were studying lake water for pesticide contamination, Swiss chemists were surprised to find that the lake was polluted with chlorfibric acid, a drug which is used to lower blood cholesterol levels. The possibility that this could have been caused by industrial spillage was ruled out when it was established that chlorfibric acid is not manufactured in Switzerland. When the chemists checked other lakes and rivers, they found low concentrates of the drug everywhere. When researchers in Germany started looking for chlorfibric acid, they found the drug in all sorts of water supplies, including tap water. Intrigued? The researchers looked harder, and they found lipid-lowering drugs, analgesics including diclofenac and ibuprofen, beta-blocker heart drugs, antibiotics, chemotherapy drugs, and hormones. They found all these drugs in water bodies and in drinking water, and they found that the concentrations were highest in heavily populated areas. Once they had ruled out industrial spillages, the researchers realized that the drugs had come from human body wastes, exactly what I had predicted in 1982. The chances are that no one knows what drugs can be found in your drinking water. Why? Because no one is looking. Most governments do not monitor water supplies to see if they contain drug residues, nor do they require anyone else to do this. But there seems little doubt that drinking water is now heavily contaminated with drug residues, and the long-term effect of all this is difficult to estimate. Minute amounts of antibiotic in drinking water can affect bacteria in many different ways. They can surely have a dramatic effect on the development of antibiotic-resistant organisms. There is not yet any evidence showing a clear link between water pollution and problems such as fertility affecting human beings. But the absence of any such evidence may possibly be a result of the fact that, as far as I know, no one has yet done any research into this issue. The research would be extremely simple to do and would not cost very much. Scientists would simply count the number of people with fertility problems or some other specific disorder who had drunk recirculated water, and then compare the figure with the incidence of fertility problems among people who had drunk fresh spring or borehole water, but who would want to do such research? Certainly not the water companies. How are the drugs in your drinking water affecting your health? Is your daily cocktail of tranquilizers, antibiotics, hormones, steroids, chemotherapy drugs, heart drugs, painkillers, and so on making you ill? How do all these drugs interact? Are they likely to be at least partly responsible for the way the incidence of cancer is increasing? Are they affecting your immune system? No one knows, and no one in authority seems to want to know. Maybe they are frightened to discover the truth. Meanwhile, politicians around the world now drink spring water at taxpayers' expense, which is bottled at source before it has too much chance of becoming contaminated. This article is taken from Vernon Coleman's book, Superbody, now available as an e-book and a paperback on Amazon. The book is subtitled The Secret of Survival in the 21st Century and includes sections on how to boost your immune system, the 101 best foods in the world, and how to increase your resistance to infection and disease. Sounds like a wonderful book. Everybody should have one. So, I think that I will stop there because the next subject is completely different, I suppose. I haven't read it, but I'm going to read it. Okay. So I'll just make a note of where I stop and what to. This book doesn't have pages. It doesn't have anything. Occasional headline. Okay, God bless you all. Have a great evening. I don't know if I'll have time to do one more, but it won't be right now. It'll be after I've checked my laundry. Alright, God bless. Thank you. Bye-bye.